Welcome to Wargroove, everybody. Sneaky here. Let's talk about the tier list, the new meta, and the qualifiers in Ranked Season 6 for the Groove of War. Alright, first things first, tier list, tier list, tier list. Let's talk about the bans. So Yoda, of course, is still perma-banned. He's still way overtuned. Nobody doubts that. But there are 3 new perma-bans for Season 6. Ragna, everybody's favorite shield jumper, will be perma-banned alongside Yoda, as well as Koji, the master of bombs, and Caesar, the master of being a best boy. Now, why exactly have these 3 been singled out alongside Yoda? Well, while not at Yoda levels of power, Caesar, Ragna, and Koji were consistently picked, banned, and mirrored to death in Groove of War 5. You just couldn't pick one of them without seeing the other or a mirror match. It was impossible. Caesar is a little bit tricky to play, but most players, because Caesar's so hard to play, are afraid to go up against Caesar without a Caesar. Koji and Ragna are easy to play and extremely reliable. All 3 of them are very powerful, have very impactful grooves that are useful in almost every game. There's just no reason not to play them, so these 3 have been perma-banned in Season 6. So, who does that leave us with? Well, in order to determine where the new meta falls, we really have to look at the new maps in the meta. The Groove of War staff have told us that they're going to try to give us the maps in the ranked season, in the ranked ladder, so that leading up to the World Tournament, the players can practice on them, so it's not new and surprising when the tournament begins. That means the maps and the new meta are going to determine everything, and which commanders are going to be the new unbanned S tier. So, let's take a look at the maps. Uroboros. Uroboros is an insane map. Look at this thing, it's crazy, and it's part of a brand new thing called the 3 barracks meta. There's not 1, not 2, but 3 racks that you will have control over to build units. You also have 1 or 2 towers, and a hideout. This map is insanely big. There are so many villages to fight over and so much economy. How do you know it won't devolve into witch spamming? Well, you don't, but the game will probably end before that because you can just build so many units and flood down all the villages to get huge econ, or flood down the stronghold to win the game. There are 2 lanes, the top and the bottom, but you can cross through the beach in the center to suddenly front switch or blob your army or create huge fronts. It's an incredibly dynamic map. But the key feature here is 3 barracks. That means tons of doggos, tons of units. It's a very big map and a very formation-heavy map. It's not like, Dendritic, where, I can build a merfolk on turn 2, and that's significant because I can do this unique strategy my opponent can't copy. No! Whatever you build, your opponent can do it. It's all about where you position everything that matters. Positioning and formations determine this map. Okay, so that's Uroboros. Let's look at some of the others. Theft in 19 by 19. Look familiar? Isn't this Haggard Hollow? Theft in 19 by 19 is a take on an old map that has been used in Wargroove tournaments since the beginning of Wargroove tournaments. This map has gone under so many changes, but it still exists. And it's a little bit similar to Uroboros in that it's what I call a pixel map. You have these villages that are pixel spread all over the map, but not directly in the center, and you can capture and fight and blob your army or split into different lanes. It's up to you. And then eventually you pool in the center for a big formation fight and push for the stronghold. Again, it's not about what you build. Anything you build can be copied. The build order isn't even as important. It's all about formations, formations, formations. How you position everything, where you put everything, how you choose to fight over these villages. And I wonder whether or not wagon shenanigans still exist. And now we have thieves to consider. On top of everything else, you have thieves to consider. Can they be used to steal racks? I don't know, they're pretty heavily protected, but you can definitely use them to flip villages in new ways. So this is a smaller map than Uroboros. The stronghold is a little bit closer to where the army is, so tempo is going to be very important, pressure is going to be very important, unlike Uroboros, but it's also a formations map, with probably medium-sized armies. Alright, that's Theft in 19 by 19. Let's look at some of the other maps. Sidewinder! Oh no, this map is my mortal nemesis. A map with incredibly dense defensive terrain, making defending your stronghold theoretically easy, but in reality, is it? This is a Valder map of Valder maps. Valder does so well on this map. And the incredible defense makes for some really interesting things you can do where you can kind of just hole up and spam units. Definitely a big army map, definitely a formation map, definitely a science map. There's so much science in the opening and making sure you do economy correctly. This is definitely a map that I think we would have benefited for more practice in Groove of War 5. In Groove of War 6 we're going to have plenty, because here it is again. This is a map that favors practice, once again, unit formations. It's not as much of a pixel map. Instead, this map more has the center, this corner, and this corner. You fight over these three kind of connected but separated fronts, and you fight in between the fronts to go after the stronghold. So it's almost like there are 5 distinct sections to this map. It's very, very different than the others, a little bit weird, and possibly opens up the floor to some kind of gimmick or rush plays. But I think ultimately it will come down to unit formations and big to medium-sized armies, just like the other maps. I'm noticing a theme here. All the maps so far are higher economy, medium to big maps, bigger armies, and unit formations are key. Sidewinder is the only one with really heavily dense terrain. The other ones are more opened. Let's check out some of the other maps to see if some of these patterns hold. Open Season. Oh my goodness, this was one of my favorite maps from Groove of War 5, and I'm so glad they're bringing it back. Although, I seem to remember one side being a little bit strong. I don't know. In any case, Open Season is it's a unique map. It's a pixel map for sure. There are these villages scattered all over the map that you can capture and fight over constantly. Unit formations are critical, right? It's a medium-sized map with medium to big army sizes. Okay, the pattern keeps, and it's very open. There isn't a lot of dense terrain. So far, Sidewinder was the only one with dense terrain. This is more of an open pixely map. And they're rifles, which is kind of a gimmick, and you can create a very early powerful push on your opponent's HQ from either first or second player. So that's kind of a gimmick. I think this map is a little bit more on the gimmicky strategy side, but once again, unit formations are critical, because it's an open pixel map. What more can I say? Let's look at the next map and see if we get another open pixel map. Pirate's Curse. This map kind of looks like a modified version of that quick play map a little bit. Pirate's Curse is a really dynamic map. You have opposite-owned villages on your side of the map, an early hideout, a commander. What do you capture first? There are decisions, there are questions, there are build orders that matter. It is a little bit of a pixel map in the sense that you have these villages that are scattered all across the map. There's not really one lane, but the map is separated by a little bit of terrain. You have these sea villages, which you can't cross, connected to forests at a diagonal, which sort of create a line here, because you can't really, like, cross over in this direction. You can cross over this way, but not this way, so you're almost forced into these, like, diagonal lines of attack, or to kind of go around. So I'd say there are sort of lanes, but you can violate them. But this is at its core a pixely opened map. This is a formation map. There are more gimmicks on this map for sure, and some science to be done. But ultimately, once again, formations decide this map. I think gimmicks could theoretically lead to, like, these strongholds are pretty close together. If your armies are both, like, in the middle here, I could see some cheeses being done, for sure. So this is a little bit of a cheesier map. I'd say maybe cheese is close, but formation still wins on a pixely map like this. Formations, 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 formations. Have I said that enough, guys? Okay, we've gone through every map, all 6, in the Groove of War 6 qualifiers. These maps are also in the ranked pool for Groove of War 6, and the Groove of War team has said that they're going to try to keep the maps in the ranked pool and the qualifiers the ones we use in the tournaments, so that players don't have to relearn maps for the final tournament, because that caused some problems in the past. And it was a little tricky. So definitely an improvement, and that means we can reliably say that these 6 maps, even if some of them change or get swapped out, are representative of the meta as a whole. So let's take that back to the tier list, and now figure out which commanders are going to be number 1. Alright, so we're back to our tier list. Now that we know what the meta is going to look like, we can figure out which commanders will be best. So far, it seems a lot like the maps will be mostly these pixely maps. That's what I like to call these maps that have villages everywhere and a lot of open terrain. Sidewinder is a little bit more closed, and we did see a couple maps like Pirate's Curse that are open to some gimmicks, but all of the maps favor unit formations very heavily and give you a lot of mobility across the map. For this reason, because big maps with big armies and lots of villages and econ are most popular, and lots of open terrain, Sedge. Oh my goodness, Sedge is the king of the unbanned tier list. I can't tell you enough. Sedge is going to dominate. We saw how scary Sedge was in the Sequoia versus Xeronix match on Headlands to Deadlands. Sedge is a beast. I've been saying this, I think, since the end of the last tournament, but Sedge really has a higher skill ceiling than most people realize. I don't think we've seen the best Sedge plays in the world yet, not even from Sedgehoon, and Sedgehoon keeps getting better. I think we have more to see from Sedge, and Sedge will dominate big maps with lots of duels and lots of eco. Who else? Well, Vesper. Big maps scream Vesper. Unit formations scream Vesper. Vesper was already strong. There were a bunch of people already saying Vesper OP. Vesper can cheese the HQ, cheese the commander. Vesper can siege the HQ. Vesper can win unit fights by setting up smoke and going in on an attack. Vesper is good at formations, and Vesper also can affect the other side of the map, which will be great on something like Uroboros without even being there. Vesper can, like, shield herself from a cheese by saving her stronghold with smoke. I think Vesper has so much utility. She's not quite as reliable as Ragna Koji, or quite as powerful in the sudden burst as Caesar, but she has almost the reliability of Ragna Koji, almost the burst of Caesar, and in one commander, I think Vesper is going to be huge. Valder, oh Valder, we can never forget you. Now, I was a little hesitant to put Valder on here, because bigger maps with lots of units means Valder will be strictly worse. But I had to put Valder on here because we know they're Valder maps. Open Season is a Valder map. Sidewinder is a Valder map. There are at least 2 Valder maps. I think Pirate's Curse could be a Valder map. And I will not underestimate Valder even on the big maps, because if you can cheese economy, especially with thieves, an early sword could swing whether or not you could steal from that first village, which could change 300 to 600 gold worth of eco swing. Maybe more, because you had to buy the thief, but now you can't use it. I think really good Valders will do some really scary stuff, even on the big maps. Valder will fall off on at least one of them, for sure. Maybe Valder won't work on the big maps, but there are at least 2 Valder maps, and Valder will always be S tier because of their insane eco plays that they can pull. I think, guys, that these are the 3 new Ragna Koji Caesar. I think it's Sedge, Vesper, Valder. These are the 3 that are going to get picked and banned, etc., etc. Mostly Sedge. I put Sedge in the king seat for a reason. Sedge is going to be so scary on these big open maps. It's insane. I think we're going to see Sedge mirrors. I think we're going to see Sedge perma-bans. I think it's all about that Sedge. Sedge is going to be the star in Ranked 6, in Season 6. Ranked qualifiers, that's my prediction. Alright, let's talk about everybody else. Greenfinger. So, Greenfinger is special sauce, because Cleaner Code showed us how good a good Greenfinger can be. I think Cleaner Code's game that was nominated for Best Play was the best Greenfinger play I've seen ever in any game from any player. That was insanely good. With that game, Cleaner Code rose to the top of Greenfinger players, which is probably a list of like 4. But that being said, most people can't play Greenfinger. Greenfinger's super hard, super unreliable, Can you just avoid them in a great big confrontation, or are they amazing? Maybe they're amazing. Maybe they're just like a light Vesper that can get Groove first. And, like, there's this argument that, like, Greenfinger might counter Vesper because the vines can sort of, like, detract from your ability to use smoke, and then you get vines again. I think Greenfinger has the potential to be S tier, but only in the hands of a good Greenfinger player. It's kind of like Caesar. If someone who doesn't know Caesar picks up Caesar, they're not going to be playing that top tier Caesar. They might even be playing a Sigrid if they really don't know what they're doing. But if somebody who really knows Greenfinger picks up Greenfinger, they'll be S, otherwise they'll be A. I'll put them in the middle, to be fair. Emmerich is weird. Since it's all about those formations, I've got to give him the S tier. But these big maps, you can kind of avoid the crystal or go around the crystal. So he's going to be really hard to use. But I think his potential is definitely there. Maybe not as good as the other three. Not even as good as a good Greenfinger, but he's definitely going to be very useful in these big formation fights. Especially if it turns into, like, spear walls, then, or balloon shenanigans. We saw how powerful that was. That could break maps. Alright, now, the twins are insanely good on insanely specific maps. I don't even know where to put them, because they're S tier when they're great, and they're C tier when they're not. How do I average S and C tier? I almost have to put the twins, like, I don't know, all the way over here or something. That's ridiculous. So I'm going to put them in lower A tier. Because I want you to remember that they are highly bannable on twins maps. But they are very, very, very bad on, like, Uroboros. I wouldn't use the twins on Uroboros. I say that, maybe I'll find some awesome use for the twins on Uroboros, but I doubt it. I'm going to try, probably. Just now that I've said it, just to see if it's even possible, but realistically, the twins are going to be really bad on these really big maps with really big armies. Somebody with a more useful groove is going to win the fight. You just go around the fire, use the fire against you, but the twins will be amazing on, like, certain maps where you can set up that, like, fire siege thing. Tenri is not going to be good. I don't know how else to put it. People are really scared of Tenri, but that's just because most players are, like, not assassin players. If you're an assassin player, if you're a Tenri main, you understand just how bad Tenri is going to be in this meta. Big armies means Tenri can't do anything. You can't break your opponent's wall by removing one unit. You can't get value from your slow charge groove by killing one unit. You either do a really hyper early dragon or golem snipe and then proceed to immediately rush down your opponent, or you lose the game. Or you immediately kill them because they screwed up, or you lose the game. Against a good opponent, Tenri is just going to be weak in these giant hordes of units. I don't know how else to put it. There will be some good Tenri mains, and Tenri might be worth banning against them. But other than that, A tier. Okay, so Nuru, nope. I said that Nuru would be bad in GOW5. He wasn't, like, terrible, but almost no one played her. We saw very few Nurus. There was one good Nuru thing that I think was in an Ash vs. Red Jams game that never got recorded for mysterious reasons, but ultimately, Nuru just didn't work. Like, take Nuru on Uroboros. Sure, you can get a dragon, you have enough money, but you'll miss 4 builds! Is that worth it to you? I probably have 3 witches. So, like, Nuru's value as a cheeser and a gimmicker will probably be really cool on, like, some of the maps. Maybe, like, you know, Open Season or Pirate's Curse, we could see some cool Nuru stuff, but there are no Trebs. I think Nuru is going to be in a very iffy territory. I'm going to put him in B. Alright, so Merciful. Merciful goes in Merciful tier. This special tier we have specifically for Merciful. Merciful is the king of this tier, no question. Good job, Merciful. Sigrid. Okay, we saw some good dendritic Sigrid in Groove of War 5, but no. Goodbye. Okay. I'm sorry, Sigrid. I want you to be buffed. You deserve to be buffed. But casual players think you're easy, and, you know, we need the game to be fun for everybody. Okay, so, what do we do with Dark Mercia, Elodie, and Wolfar? Well, I'm going to put them in B tier alongside Nuru, and I'll tell you why. We saw some amazing Elodie play from Alsame that was game-winning. And we saw Shu kind of troll with Dark Mercia for the most part, but they did have a really good game-ender with her. Honestly, I don't think we saw either of these two live up to their potential. Most people don't pick them, except when the stuff they really want is banned. Because of the new ban system, we only get 2 blind bans, right? There's less of a chance we'll have to get these. They got picked because in the old ban system we had 4 blind bans, and sure, some people would ban Ragnar Koji Caesar. But some people would anticipate their opponent doing that and ban other things. So we had like 7 or 8 bans, and when you ban off almost every commander, suddenly these guys look pretty appealing. I could beat a Tenri with Elodie. You can kill one of my units, I steal one of yours, I'm ahead. I can assassinate the twins with Dark Mercia. Like, there are some matchups here that work. But this into this? No. Sedge is a better Dark Mercia. Vesper is just going to wipe the floor with Elodie. Like, there are better things here than you will find here. Valder is currently a better Nuru, definitely in the early game at least. And if you're not cheesing, Valder's definitely better. So, like, yeah, these guys are in B tier, mostly because we only have 2 blind bans, and I don't think we're going to be able to ban enough things to get to these guys. Maybe if one person bans Sedge Vesper, and one person bans Baldur Emmerich, and nobody knows how to play Greenfinger, and you're stuck with these as your choices. Okay, maybe I'll pick one of these. Maybe I want to play Dark Mercia, maybe I'll go for the kill, or maybe I'll play Elodie, I think I could big brain you, right? If that happens, sure, we could see some play from these guys, but they're going to be bottom of the barrel. Wolfar is bad now. I don't know how else to say it, so I'm just going to say it. These maps are way too big. It's not going to work. Maybe like on Pirate's Curse, where it's like super brawly. Sure, Wolfar could be good on Pirate's Curse. Maybe on Open Season. That's it. Wolfar is just not going to work on most of these maps. I'd like someone to prove me wrong. You know what? I'll put him in the top of B. I think he deserves top of B. He used to be S. He used to be an S tier. But right now, I think he's just going to be Sigridized for the most part. Unless you can do a really powerful, cool rush with Wolfar, you're probably not going to win. In Groove War 5, we saw Wolfar get picked a lot and banned a lot, but the win rate just wasn't there to justify it. Alright, Mercia. I'm going to put Mercia in a very, very debatable position. Boom. Why did I do that? Am I a crazy person? People have not been playing Mercia. Nobody knows how to counterplay Mercia anymore. Everybody's forgotten. The level of play, since Mercia was considered good, has changed so much that not a single person knows what to expect from a good Mercia. Additionally, with so many units and so many duels, and the need to suddenly get Groove and use it again in the middle of a fight, or heal your commander because your village was taken out and you're trapped now by huge armies, Mercia's Groove is gonna come in handy. I think that she has some real potential, especially with these high-income maps where you have, like, golems and dragons. Mercia's gonna be awesome. So I'm gonna put her in A. I don't think she's gonna be as good or as reliable as these guys, but she could be if we see the level of Mercia play rise. In the meantime, I'm sticking her in A. Alright, we've classified every commander. Let's go over this real quick. Double S is banned. You can't pick them. They are permabanned. That's it. S tier is you should probably ban anything you don't understand. Sedge, ban Sedge. Always ban Sedge. If you were on anything, if you're playing qualifiers and you're on any map other than like Pirate's Curse, you probably don't want Sedge in it because he will be insanely strong. Vesper. If you're not comfortable with Vesper, you might want to ban her. Same thing with Valder. You really need to know at least one of these commanders to have a chance, because they are going to dominate the pick phase, the ban phase. I'm telling you, these guys are golden, especially Sedge. Emmerich isn't the end of the world if you can't play him and you don't want to ban him, but I think some good Emmerich players are definitely going to surface and show us Emmerich's power, and that's why he's S. I'm not sure if he's ban-worthy, but he's scary, and I would ban him against an Emmerich main, because otherwise we're going to see that Sequoia Balloon thing again, and oh my goodness, that was scary. Greenfinger, only ban against Greenfinger mains, otherwise leave him alone. people who don't know Greenfinger will not be scary as Greenfinger. Twins, Tenri, Mercia. These are the wild cards, the Mavericks. They could be insanely good, and they will be on maps that benefit them, especially the Twins on a Twins map. You know what? They get the king roll here because the Twins on a Twins map are S tier. They're double S tier. They're amazing. When they're not in their element, though, they're just really, really bad. Same for Tenri. Mercy is in here because I have no idea how she's going to perform, but I think she has a lot of potential. B tier is, I'm sorry, the world just doesn't like you right now. The maps aren't super favorable to Nuru. Dark Mercia and Elodie aren't going to be super useful when the map is swarming with units and they don't have the most impactful grooves at slow charge to begin with. And Wolfar is going to get swallowed by units, and their groove won't be as impactful. They suffer from Sigrid syndrome. Sigrid is Sigrid, and Merciful is Merciful. That's it for this tier list. By the way, if you're watching this video before February 15th, I will remind you to take a look at the Swiss qualifiers. I'm not sure exactly when that closes, but you should sign up because that is your best chance for qualifying for Groove of War 6. You do have to qualify this time, either by winning the Swiss qualifiers, from which 8 people will go on, or by being somewhere in the top of the ranked pool. There's a ranked ladder now on the Discord, and then winning the special ranked top player playoffs. 4 players will go off from the ladder, and 8 players will go on from Swiss, and 4 players will go on from the top 4 from the last World Tournament. If you want to play in Groove of War 6, make sure you sign up for these qualifiers and you do well in these qualifiers so that you can qualify, so that you can play in Groove of War 6. That's all for now. If you have any questions about this tier list or the new map meta, let me know. Again, these aren't necessarily the maps we'll see in the World Tournament, but they are the maps from the qualifiers, and this is the meta we're looking at right now. Some things might change, and if they do, I'll probably post a comment. That's all for now, and welcome to Wargroove.